I've used Derwent Graphite pencils ever since I started drawing, and I've never really tried any others, but today I'm stepping out of my comfort bubble and I'm going to be comparing them to these Faber Castell graphite pencils to see which ones take the crown. So, pencils, outline, and let's get started. I'm doing an image of Leon Kennedy from the Resident Evil 4 remake because it has a lot of mid to dark tones. I think the dark tones are often the hardest to get right with graphite due to shine problems, so I like choosing darker images when comparing so I can really test the pencils out in the parts where they're more likely to struggle. They did a really good job on this dark part of his jacket. I find that as long as you keep your pencils sharp, you can get some decent dark tones from graphite. They're just not as good as what's available with other types of pencils. Quick side note, but this textured part of his jacket is the perfect sign that if you want your drawings to be as good as possible, you need to treat every part with the same respect and make sure not to skimp past bits you think won't be looked at. I rush these details and because of that they don't look as good as they could have. They're somewhat passable from a distance, but all in all, I messed up here. But I really like these Derwent pencils, and aside from the standard limitations that graphite generally has, they've never let me down, and I've never felt like I needed a better graphite pencil. I'm interested in seeing how the Faber Castell stack up against them. I've always heard good things about Faber Castell. The polychromos are currently my favourite colour pencils, and the pit graphite mattes are amazing, so I'm hoping for good things. These pencils cost about £10. I'm using 2 tins of the same price, but I'm pretty sure every grade of pencil I used in this drawing can be found in the soft grey tin. They're a little bit cheaper than the Faber Castells, but only by £1 or so. They're pretty much identical in price, so I'm expecting them to be mostly the same in quality. The paper I'm using is Strathmore's 300 series Bristol Smooth surface. It's currently my favourite paper for graphite drawings. It's nice and smooth and it's really easy to get good coverage without the annoying white dots you can sometimes get with more textured paper. I do sometimes end up with little striations and burnishing marks as I draw, but keeping my pencils sharp, not pushing quite so hard and going over it in different directions mostly stops that from happening. These graphite pencils have always felt great to me. They come in a big range of tones and the quality has always felt really good. They sharpen nicely in my sharp point sharpener, and since I started using this sharpener I really haven't had too many issues with pencil leads breaking. Although my 9B is being troublesome today, but I think the lead's slightly damaged in a couple of places down the core, so I'm going to be using a different sharpener that might be a bit more gentle. It's annoying, but these things happen. They did a good job on the hair. They get nice dark tones for the darkest parts and they're easy to erase when doing the highlights. Finer details can sometimes be tricky on a drawing of this size, but my sharp point sharpener keeps the Derwents nice and pointy and helps me get those tiny details. I used to do all my graphite drawings using just graphite, but a couple of years back I started mixing them with carbon pencils for the darkest tones, and that became my go-to combo for black and white drawings. Every time I do a drawing with just graphite nowadays, it feels really annoying seeing the shine and contrast issues. The reference image is a bit lighter on the Derwent side than on the Faber Castell side, but with the background and jacket as well as the highlights on the face and in the hair, both sides have a good range of contrast to test these pencils out on. I do get some scratchiness with these pencils sometimes, but it doesn't happen too often. Whenever it happens, I either sharpen them a little bit to try and get rid of the part of the lead that's scratching, or I just rub it on some scrap paper to grind it away. The scratchy part can sometimes damage the paper, so it's best to stop and deal with it as soon as you notice it, but it's never been that big of an issue to me, and it's rare that it happens and it's easy to fix. And here's the finished Derwent side. The pencils are great, like I knew they would be. They feel really good, easy to use, they sharpened well and blend nicely. Just an all-round good quality pencil. I'm really happy with the results. The smaller details look good, the tones look nice, but as to be expected, the darker tones don't have as much contrast as they could have, and the level of shine from some angles can be really off-putting. Now let's test out the Faber Castell 9000s. I have high hopes for these pencils, and I haven't been let down by Faber Castell yet, so let's get into it and see what they can do. First off, I should say that I don't have quite the same range with these pencils. I have a couple of packs of the Derwents, so I had between 4H and 9B. With the Faber Castells, I have from 2H to 8B. It's not too big of a difference considering I don't use the harder Derwent pencils very often, but missing the 9B could be important. I've looked online and Faber Castell don't seem to do a 9B for this specific line of pencil, but they have got darker grades with the Pitt Graphite matte pencils, which are designed to get better dark tones with much less graphite shine. So if all goes well, a pack of both should be a great combination that can get you pretty much any tone you need. But for now I'll just be using these and we'll see how they go. These pencils cost about £12, which seems like a fair price for a good pack of pencils that will probably last a long time. Aside from a broken or damaged core every now and then, graphite pencils tend to last a really long time for me. In fact, some of the Derwents I used for the left side were from my first ever pack, and I've been using them for about 13 years. So in my experience, a good pack of well-made graphite pencils can get some good mileage. The darker pencils usually run out the quickest, but both brands allow you to buy individual pencils, which is always useful and stops you from ending up with 100 2Hs that you never use. It also allows you to buy one or two from each set and see which one you personally prefer. Both pencils did really well in the eye areas. The super dark tones looked really good and were nice and consistent, and it was fun seeing these silhouette type shapes being built up. So far the 8B seems very similar to the Derwent 9B. I had the same thing when I was testing the Pitt Graphite mattes against some Staedtler Carbon pencils. The Faber Castells went all the way up to 14B, but they didn't really seem that much darker than the Staedtler 8B. But the 8B is doing really well here. It matches up with the Derwent side really nicely and doesn't feel like it's holding me back in terms of reaching the darker tones I want. They sharpen great too. They feel really sturdy and firm and can get a nice strong sharp tip. Now feels like a good time to say that if you're enjoying this video, remember to like and subscribe so you can see more in the future. The hair was nice and easy. The sharp point allowed me to get those thin areas and make sure they were dark enough to give contrast. They feel really similar to the Derwents, good quality and nice to use, they feel good on the paper and the tones are matching up perfectly. I really don't think I'd be able to tell that this drawing was done with two different types of pencil. All in all, it shouldn't be surprising that these are so similar. Like I mentioned earlier, the Derwents are cheaper but only by about £1, so you'd expect them to be very close in quality. I think the Faber Castells are maybe a little firmer. The tip doesn't feel like it's blunting as fast as the Derwents. I did some tests to see how long they stay sharp for, and they seem to go blunt at about the same speed. The Derwents feel much softer, and at times they almost feel like they're melting into the page. Also, I'm not sure if the Faber Castell is pointier and thinner or if I'm crazy, but the lines they can get seem to generally be thinner. The lines also look a lot tidier as well. The Derwent lines almost look a little fuzzy at the edges. Maybe I'm crazy, you tell me what you think, but to me the Faber Castells just feel more sturdy and firm and I feel more able to get thinner lines and details, while the Derwents felt a little softer and seem to have tiny bits of lead flake off when I'm drawing, which I didn't really get with Faber Castells. I found myself blowing bits of lead dust off the page more frequently with the Derwents, and it felt like I had to sharpen them more often as well. The differences look pretty minimal in the end, but if I'm trying to decide between two pencils that are so similar, I guess the minimal things are what I need to focus on. As I work my way through this half of the drawing, I think the results are looking pretty much identical, but the Faber Castells still feel a bit more solid. The thin dark streaks in the hair were nice and easy to get with these pencils, as well as some of the fiddly details throughout the face. The more delicate details felt a little easier to get on this side as well. They felt a little uncomfortable at times, especially when doing larger flatter areas, but I won't mark them down for that. I've used the Derwents for over a decade, so anything that feels a little different is probably going to feel a bit weird. I'm pretty sure that if I only use the Faber Castells from here on out, I'd get used to them really quickly. I wasn't happy as I could be with some of the darker tones on his cheek, so to finish up the drawing I'm going to darken some of the tones on the right side, add some more contrast and try to make the shadows more separate from the lighter side of his face. And then we should be done. In the end, these pencils feel really close in quality. The visual results are pretty much identical and they're both really easy and nice to use, and it's not surprising considering they're pretty much the same price. They both have the typical downfalls of graphite, they're very shiny and the dark tones struggle to get as dark as you'd want in some places, but they're both really good quality. Either one would be a great choice in my opinion, but if I really had to choose one, I think I'd say the Faber Castells just about win it. That extra feeling of sturdiness in the lead and the neater lines make these pencils feel just a tiny bit better in my opinion. But all in all they're both amazing and either one would be a great choice. I'm probably going to end up using both of them. But I want to keep searching to see if there's anything better out there. So join me in a future video where I'll be comparing the Faber Castells against a pack of cheaper pencils and seeing if the price is really worth it, or if the cheaper pencils are a secret bargain. With that being said, let me know in the comments what your favourite graphite pencils are and what you like about them. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, I'll hopefully see you in the next one.